Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wild Chat Facts. I am Ryan. That is Maria, as always, over there. And guys, today's video is going to be all about snakes. So we scoured the internet. We found all the fun stuff that we could find that we liked. We put it on a piece. Well, I guess it's not a piece of paper. That'd be a Word document more likely than that. And we are here to share all the fun stuff for the stuff that we thought was fun with you guys. So, as always, Maria, would you like to start us off?
Yes, actually. So
Okay.
it's very rare, speaking of snakes, it's very rare that a snake will be born with two heads. But it happens. So genetic mutation, it happens. The interesting thing about it is if those two snakes are feeding, they actually will fight each other. So if that happens, uh like you're supposed to, here's my snake, you're supposed to break them, like literally cover each other's, try to divide them so they don't
Okay.
attack each other.
Okay. And then they're both biting you. I just feel like not getting a two-headed snake might be the way to go. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
I
if it happens, and it's not like you're gonna put your finger, just put a piece of cardboard.
Oh, okay. All right. You had your hand. So I was like, I don't think I'd want to put my hand in between the two heads of snakes fighting one another. Like just
Okay,
yeah.
so
No, I got you. I got you. Now that once you said it's not a hand, it's supposed to represent something else, then it totally made more sense. Um, we actually alluded to this in the video about alligators, but snakes can actually continue. They just keep growing until they die. So they don't. What kills a snake is usually just not being able to keep moving itself around and being able to obtain the amount of food it needs to keep its body going. So pseudo immortal, they do all die, of course, but it's more a not able to hunt issue.
and that's one of the reasons why snakes shed their skin because they need to grow their scales. So they
Mm-hmm.
shed their skin to keep growing. So they're gonna keep shedding skin
Mm-hmm.
until they can't feed anymore, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, you can't buy them Head and Shoulders just to get them to stop flaking. But you know,
You want them to continue flaking so they
yes,
can
you
keep
do.
growing.
You do. You do. Okay.
They don't have shoulders, they do have heads.
They
So maybe
do.
a
They
head and
do.
tail head
Head
and
and
tails.
Shoulders would get them to stop flaking. We just need a. We're going to market a new shampoo for people's snakes now, guys. Or, no. All right.
So when
Silliness
a
aside.
snake, is feeding, um, you will wonder what happens to some of the organs, especially the heart, because too much
Okay.
pressure on the heart, it's dangerous for anyone. So the cool thing about snakes, besides many wonderful things, is that the snake's heart can actually move around its body to protect it as it's ingesting larger prey.
Interesting. So I wonder it's there just must be slack within the arteries and veins and stuff to where it can move location and then it's just that's really interesting. Okay, let's see. Oh, it can actually take months for a rattlesnake to resupply its venom.
Hmm.
But it's also selective too. A lot of people don't realize this. So when a snake bites you, it can choose to inject venom or not. They have what's called dry bites. So it's not like every bite from a venomous snake is going to have venom in it. Because it does take so long for them to recharge it, it is a selective motion that they can choose to or not.
Yeah, it is an investment. I mean, for them, it's same thing with many like scorpions and things like and animals like that could inject venom. Is they're very selective with the amount and if they need to be or not. Because if it's like a bluff attack, they're not gonna waste
Yeah.
precious venom.
And then the other thing, and I know this comes a little later on my list, but I'm going to throw it in now because it fits in perfectly. But snakes actually have reflexes. So even if you cut their head off, the head still has the tendency, and it's hours that it has this ability to have a reflex. And the unfortunate part is since now the brain isn't working, it can't gauge how much toxin it's putting in. So the bite will have all the venom that it had left for the most part. So one of the most dangerous things is a snake that's already been killed because now it can't not decide or decide how much it's going to put into its bite. So be super
100%
careful.
survival mode.
Yes, it can happen for hours after the snake is dead. It is a reflex. So
Oh,
careful, careful, everybody.
so just
P.S.
don't touch the snakes. Just stay
Yes.
away.
don't touch or kill the snake if you don't have to, and you're all right.
Exactly. And another thing I learned about poisons, is that there is actually a more poisonous creature, which is a eel. They call them like sea snakes, basically,
Okay.
or more. Well, I was gonna say moray eels, but eels can be more poisonous than a snake venom. But if you're going to cook it, like if you're gonna cook the eel that has the poison, if you cook it, then the cooking or digesting the blood renders it harmless.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Because it has to go through your digestive tract, so your stomach acid breaks it down. Opposed to if you're bit by it, it's in your bloodstream already. So okay, interesting.
Mhm,
Makes sense.
mhm.
Okay. Snakes do not bite in rivers or swamps because they would drown if they did. And apparently Maria had found that one also. I could tell by the look on her face.
I just thought it was so fascinating.
Yeah.
Like to me, that was just, I mean, awe of some of the things that you assume you know, and
Mm-hmm.
then you realize why they don't do it.
Yeah, we talked about it again in the alligator video we just did. That one of the differences between alligators and crocodiles. Alligators actually hunt in the water because they have a flap at the back of their throat that can actually close it off. So when they open to bite, they're fine. Crocodiles don't have it. So basically, they drown if they try to hunt in water. So yeah,
I love that.
snakes are closer to crocodiles than they are to alligators.
So there is something really interesting that you don't think of,
Okay.
but picture a chipmunk bathing in in snake urine,
Okay.
and they do that to camouflage and protect themselves. So the Siberian chipmunks
Oh,
cover
okay.
themselves with that to camouflage their own scent. And
Okay.
in California, so this just don't, not only in Russia, in Siberia, but also in California, they have a protein that allows them to survive if they get bitten by a rattlesnake.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the
Mhm.
funny things. Most people are like, snakes are actually immune to their own venom, also. But that would make sense because your body's making it. It couldn't then be toxic to you. You would have to have evolved something that would make you immune to your own venom. So that makes sense. Okay. Um, if you're ever having those days, Maria, where you're feeling a little off, there's just everything's a little stressful, you're just going a little crazy? No,
Never.
we all have those days. We all have those days. So apparently, the cure for insanity, according to Egyptians, so you know this will be fun,
You know
was,
this will be fun.
was to eat a snake meatball under the full moon. So if you're having one of those bad days and it's full moon adjacent, you just get yourself a snake and make sure you got a meatball ready to go, so you can take care of that.
Keep it in your refrigerator
Right.
for when the full moon hits and you're having issues. Yeah, that sounds about
Yes.
right.
Hashtag not health advice.
No, do not do this at home.
Yes, you don't do this at home.
Well, speaking of eating and stuff like that to protect or keep your sanity, there is something really adorable. Um, to me, animals tend to be on the adorable category, even if they're not beautiful, but still.
Mhm.
So there is actually a really good mother out there in the snake world, and it's a non-venomous snake called tiger keelback. They're
Okay.
not venomous, but what they do to protect their newborns is that while they are pregnant, they actually ingest poisonous frogs, so that when their eggs hatch, their newborns are poisonous
Yes.
when they're born.
Okay. Well,
Such a nice mom.
if they're worried about mammals, all they're gonna do is like rub some capsaicin on them because we found out that mammals don't like capsaicin other than the tree shrew. So, guys,
Sure, because
we're gonna bring back the tree shrew and the capsaicin. This is now the running joke: is only mammals that like spicy food are humans, and now newly discovered tree shrews because they have a mutation
to us,
where the
newly
capsaicin
discussed.
does not bother them, so they're able to eat it. So. This will be fun, Mark, for those snake charming performances you always see where it's the cobra in the basket and the guy doing his thing. Apparently, those are illegal in India now. But if you ever come across one of those, would you guess that the snake is attracted to the sound or the movement?
The movement.
You're going
They're
movement.
mesmerized by the movement.
Exactly.
Hopefully, I gave you guys time to figure that one out too. But although my head moving should have given it away
Yes.
as you were talking, so their hunting instinct is to trace the prey or the predator. So what they're
Yes.
doing is with the flute moving, they're also moving, just following it. So it's not that they're mesmerized in the sense of you hypnotize them. No, they're just very focused. So they're so hyper focused that if you actually were to put them back in the basket, they're so hyper focused they won't notice.
Yeah. Yep.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was
Just
interesting.
don't do it. Don't do
Yeah.
it. So king cobras, speaking of amazing animals and cobras, king cobras are actually cobras. They're called like that because they eat snakes, including cobras.
Okay. I
I
guess
thought was
would be
very
it.
interesting.
It's kind of that lion, like king of the jungle thing. So you're king of the cobras because you eat all the other cobras. Interesting. Okay. All right.
Kind of sad.
A little bit.
Cannibalism at its best.
All right. Here's some fun stuff here. The stomach acid in a snake's stomach, it can digest bone and teeth, but not fur or hair for some reason.
Oh, how weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So much like cats, they constantly cough up fur balls, I guess. I don't know.
Speaking of coughing,
That's not a thing. Oh,
I
that's
sound like I have a verbal. As soon as you said that, I was like, I have a furball.
Oh.
So this is really cool how animals work together. So
Okay.
you will think an owl will hunt for snakes. Like they hunt mice, they hunt snakes. They are the most silent flying animals. Like you will not hear an owl coming by, and that's because they're amazing hunters.
Mhm.
Very speedy, very amazing. But owls, in order to remove parasites, they keep a type of snake called blind snake. It's just a
Okay.
tiny snake, and that will eat parasites and things like that.
Yeah, we've talked about in the past. There's just so many interesting like symbiotic relationships in the natural world of animals. You're like, what? But yeah, everybody helps everybody until somebody gets eaten. So it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt.
I was just gonna say until someone gets the collar if it's a pet.
Oh. Okay, here's a little bit of myth busting. You just got to do it, guys. We gotta bust.
Gotta
myths
do
up
it.
for fun. St. Patrick never really drove any snakes out of Ireland. If you guys have heard the myth, that the fluting and the playing and it drove all the snakes out of Ireland, didn't happen. Didn't happen. The story was an analogy for how he drove paganism out of Ireland, not snakes.
Well, now you have it.
Yes, we gotta get a
Still
little
happy St. Patrick's Day. I don't have
Yes.
anything green, so I couldn't even
Okay.
cheer for that.
gotta get a little religious fervor in there on occasion. We got gotta
Every once in a while, why not?
smatter it in.
So, there's a hack, very important hack actually. So if you want to keep your car clean from bird droppings, one of the best hacks you can do is actually put a toy snake on top of your car because birds will not be on top of the tree, like if you park under a tree because of the
Gotcha.
snake.
Interesting.
So a little hack for you. Of course, the problem with taping anything is that the tape may damage your car. So please be careful with how you attach the snake to your car.
Yes. And then the next thing I want you guys to do if you use this hack is I want you to climb the tree. Make sure there's no bird nests or anything in there because you don't want to scare away mom and dad. Now the kids are on their own because mom and dad don't want to be anywhere near the snake.
And then
So
a
I'd like-
real snake will come and eat the babies.
Yes, I want a thorough inspection of all canopies, branches, and small hollows that an egg can be hidden in before you also utilize this hack for your benefit.
Fair and balanced for sure.
Yes. I thought it was obvious, but it's also interesting to me. So snake bodies are armored with like scales and plates and stuff, and they're also waterproof. And it's cool because that's basically what allows the snake, because it has to crawl everywhere. So that's what protects it to be able to go across rough terrain or hot surfaces, or so what snakes can withstand to travel through, they're basically armored against, which is why you'll see them in super hot deserts, like crawling across rocks and stuff you'd never want to put your bare feet on. They don't even feel it.
That is so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And snakes actually, they are some snakes that are not just in hot lands or, you know, jungle or something like that.
Yes.
Snakes can be pretty much in the water, if you think of an anaconda, or in the jungles, or if you think of a rattlesnake in a desert. But the coolest snake is the snake that could fly.
Okay.
Here's what it is. It's not that the snake developed wings and had adapted to it. No, of course not.
I've seen
But
that
in the in
The
the
one-
island of Java in Malaysia, the snakes actually had adapted themselves to the distance of the trees, because there's
Okay.
like certain, like Borneo, and there's some areas where the trees, the topography is actually very different than in the Amazon rainforest. The trees are actually further away from each other.
Okay.
So many animals had to adapt to that in order to be able to protect themselves. So in the island of Java, they're known for the snakes to flatten their bellies in order to actually glide through the air,
Yeah.
like if they were gliding, like to survive or to just transport themselves.
I remember reading at some other point in time, it wasn't for this video, but the way that they arc their body and flatten themselves out, they actually arch in such a way that the bottom of their body becomes a parachute. And that's part of why they're able to kind of glide and move. So they're not flat. They're actually kind of a reverse arc. But I think the more important question here is, where would the better coffee come from, Colombia or Java?
Why would they call coffee Java? That's the part I don't know.
I don't know. It's the word origins are always fun to me. I'll probably look that up after we get off of here because I'm curious myself.
Of course, Colombia, because I'm super biased.
Well, you do buy a lot of coffee. You're right. You are super biased on that one. We're recording a little later today, guys, so excuse me if I'm punny or not quite punny to you. I apologize for that. Some snakes can smell through their nose, but all snakes can smell. No way. I have an incomplete sentence, Maria. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. They actually smell with their tongues. So when you ever see a snake putting its face in the air and slithering its tongue around, it's not trying to like look intimidating or anything. There's actually receptors on their tongue, and so that's how they smell. And we talked about this in a previous video with dogs, how when a dog, it'll lick its nose, and it's actually licking the scents off of its nose, and that's how it gets more scent and also transfers taste. So that is a way that a snake and a dog are very similar.
That is so cool. I love that. I was like, repeat it. We can piece it together based on what we know.
Yes. No, we didn't need that.
So who do you think is more poisonous or venomous? So between poisonous and venomous, who's the worst here? Between a female black widow spider or a rattlesnake? Of course, it has to be a female black widow.
Yeah, I felt like that was a very sexist question there, Maria. I mean, why can't it? I mean, is the snake also female? Do I need to factor this in? Is this part of?
No. You don't worry about the gender of the rattlesnake, but the spider does have the female.
Okay. Well, since you went out of your way to say that it was a female, but this video is about snakes, now I'm very tossed up. I feel like I have a solid argument on both sides. I'm going with the spider.
You're very right. The venom of a female black widow is more potent, but here's the kicker. A rattlesnake's venom can actually stay poisonous, like if you extract the poison, for about 25 years.
Yeah, that stuff is...
So even though this black widow spider venom is very potent, you have to be careful because the shelf life of a rattlesnake venom will outlive the spider.
But you would have to inject it also, like we said. If you can like drink, now don't do this, guys. But from what I understand, your previous fact is, if it's not in your bloodstream, if it's in your digestive stream, it doesn't have that same effect as.
Exactly.
So you'd have to like be by a bunch of like needles and trip and fall, and then the venom would have to somehow get into the needle and then into you. you'd really have to be pretty clumsy to somehow.
But the thing is, it says a rattlesnake's venom stays poisonous up to 25 years after the rattlesnake had passed.
Yeah.
I wonder if even if they preserve the head, if the poison is still active.
Oh, if you actually need the glands without it extracted, it would probably decompose with the rest of the animal.
You will think.
Yeah, I would assume that you'd have to actually extract it, and they have those bite kits that have like the rubber membranes on them, and then they get the snake to bite it, and then it'll inject.
It looks like a cellophane.
Yeah, basically. Okay, so and we guess most people probably already know this intuitively, but snakes have a very acute vibration sensitivity, so they can feel. Obviously, they don't have a lot of senses available to them, so obviously that sense of vibration is a big deal. And when they're slithering across, that's how they're able to sense animals approaching, because they're not hearing anything, or because they usually don't stop to stick their tongue out. And even with that sense of smell, their sense of smell isn't so strong that if they stick their tongue out and they're downwind from a predator, they could tell what it is. So it's that sense of vibration that's so important to them. And they have receptors and grooves all along their like snout area that enables them also to sense radiated heat. So they can use vibration, or essentially like they can sense the heat that a predator or another animal is radiating off of itself. I don't know how
amazing.
I don't know how close they have to be though. So I'm like, that's a useful skill, but it would have to be from distance for it to be a really solid survival skill.
Yeah, but when they're hunting, they use their sense of heat. Like they're like a little heat sensors. So they know when the mouse is crawling around, and they can sense and kind of taste how far it is, how healthy it is.
Okay.
And actually use it for hunting.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if you want to be healthy, this is a very interesting fact that I found about cancer. It says that they've been doing some studies that copperheads, which are extremely poisonous snakes, their venom, they have been doing studies to reduce the development of cancer cells. Like they actually have been targeting the particular cancer cell. It's not like, oh, let's inject and see what happens. No, it's the particular cancer cell, and it's actually stopping the growth of them. And they have found that many other poisonous snakes have that protein that stops the migration of tumors in the body.
Okay.
That is incredible.
Interesting. All right. Well, we get our answer too of like the 25-year shelf life of venom. If you're studying it in that way, you're probably injecting it. So you probably could basically accidentally inject yourself with. Well, we got an answer to a question I asked on a previous one. Okay, this one's just for funsies, guys. And Maria, have your pen and paper handy, because we're gonna ask the crowd a question that they can put in the comments.
Okay.
So Teddy Roosevelt, the president that was famous for inspiring the teddy bear, he had a lot of animals. He was actually a pretty big animal lover, and he had a lot of animals. He had a pet snake that was possibly the worst pet snake name I could possibly ever think of. He named his pet snake Emily Spinach. Yeah, that's right. Emily Spinach is what he named his snake. What I want you guys to do is in the comments, in the community section, or in the free section on Patreon, as always, guys, after these videos, there's going to be a couple questions over there. One will always be, do you have any more fun facts about whatever our video was? So do you have any more fun snake facts we missed? Love you to share them. But the second question for today is going to be, can you come up with a worse snake name than Emily Spinach? And if it requires a species of snake, you can write that. If your name is clever and it's like a play on words and it's just funny for like a king cobra, but it wouldn't quite be as funny for a rattlesnake, you can put king cobra dash Lilliputian or whatever your name is for your worst pet snake.
Maurice.
Yes. See, that's not bad. It's not as bad as Emily Spinach.
No, because I was thinking of the king in Madagascar.
Yes.
But he wasn't. He was Julian, King Julian.
But still clever. Like, we're looking for bad. Like I've got a snake, and it's like, all right, his name
King
is like
Kong.
Toothless Joe, and you're like, well, yeah, of course. He has two fangs. What is that? That's not even that bad. Um,
Worst name ever possible for a snake.
for a snake name, yes, pet snake, worst name possible. And you can make them up. If you've heard them, I want to hear them. But you could also make them up. What do you got, Mar?
So speaking of snakes,
Okay, okay.
so actually Australia is the land of poisonous, dangerous, anything and everything unique. They'll have it. Anywhere from jellyfish to no, the snails are actually in New Zealand, but close enough. Anything and everything. So they actually have is the only continent where venomous snakes actually outnumber the non-venomous.
Okay.
But if you go to Tasmania, 3 of the most deadliest snakes are in Tasmania. So basically, every snake you see in Tasmania ran. Like you better ran from it because
Run.
they are poisonous.
Yes, run away, run away. The funny thing is, isn't it New Zealand that's like the one of the only countries that doesn't have any snakes? Like not even in zoos and stuff. Am I getting that right?
I thought that was Ireland, not even in
Okay.
the zoos.
But I think New Zealand also, which is ironic because they're right
Maybe
next
right.
to Australia that has all of the poisonous
have it.
snakes. There's a certain animal they have that's dangerous, and they have none of it, and everybody else has at least one. I'm pretty sure it's snakes, though.
Mhm.
Don't quote me on it, guys, and yeah, feel free in the comments. Like, yep, it's snakes. But I remember reading a fact somewhere that New Zealand is one of the only countries in the world that does not have X, and I'm pretty sure it's snakes. Not even.
I think you may be right.
Yeah. Let's see. See, I have your two-headed snake fact also. Yep. One out of every 100,000 snakes are actually born with two heads, so it's not as uncommon as you would think. But in captivity, it's 1 in 10,000. So it's 10 times higher likelihood to get a dual-headed snake in captivity than it is
You're
out in the
doing
wild.
breeding, I'm sure.
Probably, yeah.
Don't quote me on that. I'm assuming.
I guess basically the snakes possess two different brains, so they can have two distinctly different personalities. So, but typically one head dominates the other in the relationship.
I will assume so.
Mm-hmm.
I will assume anything with 2 heads, 2 thinking individual heads, will have to have an alpha and a beta.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Beta.
Beta, yeah. That was
Beta.
That was a grocery store when I was growing up. Alpha, beta.
Oh,
Let's see. Intense snake hunger can be caused. They actually start digesting like their own heart muscle, and then once they actually get nutrition, it just quickly rebuilds itself. So not only can they move their heart around, if they need food, they can just start absorbing. And I joke about that. Sometimes I'm really hungry. I'm like, okay, my organs are digesting themselves now. Can we get food? I never knew that was an actual possibility in an animal. So yeah.
you were not far away from the truth, huh?
It wasn't. Yeah, it was just me being a smart aleck. But apparently, it's a thing that snakes actually do. I think the cool part is that their heart rebuilds like very quickly after they get sustenance.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Also, it gives them a hump so they can actually go hunt. So, like, okay, I'll give you a loan
Yeah,
so that you can go hunt, and then I'll take my payback from it.
yeah. That's one of the principles behind intermittent fasting. Is human beings went a long time without food, and that made us more in tune and more acute, and we actually all of our senses got honed in, so we could actually go hunt. Sentences. So we could go hunt and be successful. Because if we just debilitated further and further, then it's just going to get harder and harder. So yeah, I guess it probably goes along those lines.
Mm-hmm. So there is a myth. They used to think that milk snakes. There's a type of snake they call a milk snake.
Okay.
And they used to call it milk snake also because they were believed to steal milk from cows.
Oh, okay.
So these milk snakes were around barns, and families has their cows, and people believed that they drank from the cows, but the truth was they were actually just hunting for mice. So they came up with, oh, these are milk snakes, they're stealing the baby's milk and blah blah blah. No, they were saving your animals from getting vermin such as mice.
Yeah, I feel like we could tell you about 15 other parallel stories through history where animal X is bad, and because they got rid of animal X, Y happened, which was way, way worse, and they were never correct about animal X to begin with.
Yep. Medieval times, the Black Plague is a great example.
Exactly. So adult California ground squirrels actually have a protein in their blood that allows them to survive rattlesnake bites.
I said that already.
Did you? That specific squirrel? You talked about the urine and hiding themselves. I didn't hear you.
And then I said in California.
Oh.
But is that good of a fact? I mean, it was a very good fact.
Okay, well, let's see. I got another part here. I might add to it then. Oh, interesting. Because of that heat thing that we were talking about, their heat sensors that snakes have, the squirrels are actually able to heat up their tails and wave them in a way to let the rattlesnakes know that they're aware of them. When the rattlesnakes are actually using that heat vision, and they don't do this with other snakes. It's only rattlesnakes. So they're very like those two together in that environment are very adapted to one another hunting wise.
That is incredible. That is so beautiful.
Saved it.
You sure did. So I'm glad you repeated the thing about the California. Very good. I'm glad.
I think other people might have missed it because I got wrapped up in the urine and the smell and the odor, and I think my brain was just lingering on that when you added in and also in the. So I apologize. I was listening.
And I'm glad.
Missed that part.
Another barn animal. Can you guess which barn animal can actually withstand the bite of a venomous snake?
Honey badger.
That's actually true, but that's not a barn animal.
Well, it depends what kind of barn you're keeping. Nobody said.
Okay, barnanigans.
Yeah. You could have like a specialty barn. It's called like Noah's Ark Barn and Circus or something. I don't know.
Ark barn.
Ark barn. Okay. Let's see. Farm animal anti-snake biting skills. Let's see.
I'm showing off my snake.
Oh. I mean, I'm trying to think of like I want to say turtle because he can just hide and you can't hit him.
Barn animal. Don't go complicated. There are kind of a few choices on a barn animal.
No, is there? I haven't been around a lot of barns. So you grew up around like fincas and farms and vacation homes. I grew up in Los Angeles.
Which one is the most? Give me the three most stereotypical animals you'll find in a barn.
Cat.
Old McDonald's had a farm. What are those?
Cat, dog, mouse.
Okay, those are okay.
Okay, so it's gonna be horse, cow, or like chicken. So chicken, feathers, horse, cow. I'm going chicken. I'm going with chicken. And by her laughing disappointment, it is not chicken.
Pigs.
Mmm.
Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and in the farm he had a pig.
I don't know the rest of the song. Actually, my knowledge stops at E-I-E-I-O, and then when it starts listing all the animals, I know there's a cluck cluck here. That was the only part I remembered, so I went with chicken because I remember the cluck cluck there. That was the only line I could remember.
Well, anyway, they share that trait with other animals such as the honey badger, very good,
Okay.
the mongoose, and hedgehogs.
That makes sense. Well, it would make sense for them not to be able to bite a hedgehog because of all the quills, but if they do successfully bite it, it's still fine. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see.
No, E-I-E-I-O.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my. Here's a sad fact for everybody. The company that used to make coral snake antivenom, basically in 2003 stopped producing it because it just wasn't like profitable anymore to make it. Their output versus the price versus the amount of people that need it, there was no point in keeping the machinery online. And the stuff that the FDA has, they stored a bunch before they went out of business, and it expired in 2008. And they just keep like officially extending the expiration date because they can't get any more.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, what are the chances, honestly? And like you said, the cost.
Well, I mean, there's the one story, it might be later in my list, but I'm going to share it as like a part 2 here. So there's a guy that actually got bit by a coral snake, and fortunately for him, it was before 2003. It was in like the 90s. and he like bit the head off of it and used the snake and tied it as a tourniquet around his arm to like save himself. And I'm like, that guy got lucky that it didn't happen like 10 years later. Because if that were to happen to someone now, I guess it's still effective, but as with any medication, it would have to lessen its effectiveness over time.
Yeah,
But
shelf life.
it took like 20 doses of like the antivenom. It wasn't like a one antivenom, you're good now. Like it took like 20 vials or something, or it was ridiculous.
Yeah, I got a story of a kid that also needed so many vials. It was a ridiculous amount that it was just like it cost thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars of antivenom.
Yeah.
So I have a cute story.
Oh, okay. I like cute.
This is a very cute story.
Okay.
So there was a snake. There is a snake. I think it's still alive. In the Tokyo Zoo. It must be alive because if it's in a zoo, usually they tend to live longer. They get fed, and if they
Yes.
don't really pass away unless they have a disease, then they're gonna be very long living. So in this Tokyo Zoo, they actually fed a live hamster to the snake, and they actually became friends. So the main attraction of that zoo now is actually the snake and the hamster.
Is the name of the exhibit "It is okay to play with your food, kids"?
Playing is caring.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Couldn't help myself on that one. Okay, brown tree snakes were inadvertently, as many times happens, unfortunately, introduced to Guam from the Solomon Islands. And they've basically eaten the entire island's population of native birds and bats. And to combat the snakes, they basically dropped dead mice in with Tylenol, which basically would do away with the brown snakes that ate them because of the Tylenol content. And I'm assuming they probably just stuffed them with full pills. And
Or inject them.
Yeah, but I think the pill part would probably be the faster way, the more effective way than trying to inject. I don't want to get into the nuances of that. That part doesn't really matter, but it's sad that you have an invasive species come in and they destroy all these other animals, and then you have to get rid of them because then nothing else can survive. But then that means you then have to go yourself kill an entire population of animals just to kind of reset the environment. Invasive species are absolutely horrible to environment. No, there are some environments they help. I want to take that back, but they're just not meant to be there. So even when they do help, it's still not a good thing because most of the time it's not a helpful thing. It's
Most of the time, and what happens is, and it happened mostly in the past when the practice of transporting species to another place for invasion purposes was more obvious. But like they did that with a beetle to help eradicate something in the sugar canes, and ended up actually eating the sugar canes. And there are just so many things that they think they know.
Yeah.
Because what happens is an animal will adapt. You just don't know how they're going to adapt.
Yeah. If there's no sugar cane in their environment, you don't realize that, oh, it's like giving a mogwai water. Like, oh, okay, you give this animal sugar, and now it grows 3 times its size and becomes way worse than the animal we were trying to stop. Like, yeah.
Exactly. And that happens with frogs and things like that. They become, actually was the frog that got introduced to eat the beetle, and they didn't eat something like that. Like it happens. Countless stories of failed experiments that they didn't think it was going to work one way or another.
Yeah, they dropped this thing in to get rid of this thing, and then that just made that thing. Like they killed all the cats during medieval times, and that propagated all the fleas on all the rats, and then you got, again, back to the Black Death. Are there any more fun ones that you want to share, Mar, before we move on to the quizzes?
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Okay. All right, I have one that I just read that was close to my mind that I thought was interesting. And rattlesnakes are now evolving not to rattle. And we've heard this with elephants before that are actually growing smaller tusks or no tusks, because the whole point of their rattle originally was to scare away hoofed animals so they didn't get stepped on. Well, hoofed animals aren't really concerned because no one's riding horseback around town to try to get from place to place anymore. So their rattles actually don't serve the purpose they used to serve. So now they're actually starting to evolve rattleless rattlesnakes, which do you just call them snakes then? I don't know what happens. Bob.
Rattleless snakes.
Just call them Bob. They're all just Bob now.
Well, I actually have another thing that adds to that, and one of the reasons why I was very hesitant because this is very sad.
Okay.
But it is what it is. So
Bring it.
in Texas, they actually have rattlesnake cookouts. Like this is a big deal in Texas. I think it's around May, and they do a rattlesnake cookout. They go hunt the snakes and then cook them out. They don't just hunt them to destroy them and that's it.
Yeah.
They actually will eat them. So because they're taking so many of the snakes that rattle, they are starting to also develop and adapt to not rattling because of overhunting.
Yeah.
And because they were designed to like you said, for hooved animals, they don't have to do that. And so what they're doing now as a mechanism of defense is they're learning now to remain hidden and quiet instead of rattling
Mm-hmm.
because of humans.
Totally
So
opposite.
not only was it the hoofed animals, it's just the overhunting. So they're learning to adapt. And also, like you said, with the elephants that are now being born without tusks, because they hunted all the tusked elephants.
Yeah, they become more susceptible, so they don't get to reproduce, which means you're going to get the genes of the ones that, yeah, exactly. And that's just.
So I was going to kind of leave that fact for the after show because I wasn't sure how I felt about it.
No, that was a really
But
good.
it's a good thing to know. I mean, we are the main the ones who cause the most impact.
We talked about it in bears, the last video we just did. What's the biggest predator for polar bears? It's us. They don't run into anybody else hanging out up in the snow on the ice sheets. I mean, every once in a while an orca, but we're the biggest predator threat to polar bears. So shall we move on to the quizzes, Mar?
Do it. Whatever I have left.
All right. So I actually have an answer to my previous one, and I'm not going to tell you which one was right or wrong. So there are 5, count them, 5 countries that don't have snakes.
So we had Ireland and New Zealand.
I will give you the 5. Okay, well, I'm not telling you I was right or wrong about the New Zealand one, so, don't.
No, but I think you're right.
Okay, so you're guessing Ireland, New Zealand. Let's take a breath. Let everybody else kind of give their thoughts.
Dude, you guys are going to get plenty of time to think.
Well, but you already spit off Ireland and New Zealand before they could even think. Maybe they're
but we already talked about that one, so that was a given.
Okay, all right.
Other countries that don't have snakes. They'll have to be island countries, small island countries. Definitely not Australia. Definitely not Tasmania. Definitely not Madagascar. Oof, this is going to be a challenge. It's going to be somewhere in the Pacific. That's my clue. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. So your other 3 guesses are
okay. So we have Greenland. Iceland probably does have him, but Greenland will not have. So I'm going to say Iceland just to say something.
Okay.
But I am very 50-50 on that one.
That's 4 guesses. What is your 5th guess?
Trying to go really high north here. I wonder if Russia has any.
You're on the right track.
Finland, Norway, really far. Any of those Baltic states.
Where do polar bears live?
Well, Canada has some.
And north of Canada would be?
Antarctica.
There you go.
Dang it.
That's all 5 of them, actually. You nailed it.
Oh, I did?
Antarctica, Ireland, Greenland, Iceland, and New Zealand.
So the most obvious one, of course, I didn't get, but I did get Greenland and Iceland.
Yes, you did. You had the right thought process. You were moving there.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you know what actually harms more humans than a snake and mosquitoes?
More harmful to humans than snakes or mosquitoes?
The reason I add mosquitoes to the list is because that's one of the deadliest animals.
For sure.
So because I knew you were gonna say mosquitoes.
Well, I know that like vending machines kill more people than sharks, so it's definitely not. I mean, you gotta
He's
go.
neither a vending nor a shark.
You gotta go spider, right? Yeah, I gotta go spider.
That's your final answer?
That's my final answer, spider.
It's an arthropod, but it's actually a bee.
Okay. Just because people are allergic to them, or the Africanized honeybees?
People are allergic to it, and whether they're Africanized or not, a lot of people
Yeah.
are allergic to bees.
Interesting. Okay. Um, my next one is along those lines. So, on the list of most common phobias, where does the fear of snakes rank?
So they made a movie about arachnophobia. They made a movie about snakes in the airplane. They haven't made a cockroach, but I think cockroach is the first. People have such phobia, nobody will go and see that movie. So I'm gonna say
Phobia. Nope, no ticket sales. Two people are too afraid. They're too afraid.
exactly like that's nobody's gonna go to the movie, but that's the number one. I'm gonna say I'm guessing here. So it's
Okay.
either arachnophobia as a second or phobias of snakes. Snakes second.
Okay. So you were correct on snakes second. And you were oh so close, because then the next follow-up question was going to be, what is the top fear or phobia? No, it is not cockroaches. Yes, it is snakes. Snakes
Top
number
fear.
1. Spiders number 2. I don't know what number 3 was.
Are
But I
you
do have
serious?
one fun fact I wanted to throw in that I forgot before we rounded out. Did you know that Samuel L. Jackson said yes to doing the movie Snakes on a Plane just because he loved the title? And then the director was like, oh, we're going to change the title. That was just a working title. And he's like, no, you're not changing the title. That's the only reason this movie is from the title. I thought that was hilarious.
I read that fact and I thought it was incredible, and I didn't add it.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad you did, because I knew you were gonna you enjoy movies, so I knew it's like, yeah, that will be a fact that I bet you if Ryan reads it and finds it online, he'll know it.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any more quizzes?
No, I have a
Okay.
quick fact just to finish, because I was gonna post it as a form of a question, but it just sounds too complicated.
I got one more question.
Okay, you
That's
go for it.
basically a quiz, but it's going to be obvious to the people that know it and probably not as obvious to anybody that doesn't. But which athlete is known as the Black Mamba?
Which athlete? Oh, so Black Mamba. Not Usain Bolt. No, that's not that fast.
Well,
In
Black
the snake is not as fast as him.
They're
Huh?
like, yeah, they're known for being aggressive for the most part. Like that's the reputation of a Black Mamba as far as
Okay, so a boxer.
that's where the name came from. All right, I will help you narrow it down. Think
Please.
NBA, basketball.
I should have known that it had to be with basketball. Should have known that based on what you will choose.
Follow that thought thread and you'll get there, actually. Knowing me, keep following that thread and you'll get there.
So it's gonna have to be somebody from Lakers.
Okay.
Who was in Lakers? Okay, so I'm gonna go with Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant,
Michael
or
Jordan
that's
was
it.
not a Laker.
Oh, he was Pistons.
No, he was a Bull. Chicago Bulls.
Wasn't
All
he in Pistons also? Anyway, never mind. I don't know.
No, Washington Wizards. He went Bulls to the Wizards at the very end of his career. But yes, it was Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant.
Okay, so I guessed by
Black
pure
Mamba.
deduction.
Yeah, that's what I said. Follow the thread. You'll get there. You'll get there. All right. You said you have one more fun fact you want to share before we head out?
Yeah, they usually used to believe that snakes, I'm doing this as if you all know what I'm talking about, as in scorpions will travel in pairs, but that's actually not true.
Scorpion.
And they used to think that scorpions and snakes traveled in pairs, not scorpions and snakes together. I'm just saying
Okay.
individually, scorpions had a pair and snakes
Got
had a pair.
Okay.
And that if for any reason you harm one, the other one will, get revenge on you, but that's not true.
Okay. So this one is going to go under the category of duh. And I'm going to share it just because I just saw it and I want to get it in. So the band ZZ Top, during one of their live shows, decided to have a mixture of live animals on the stage while they were doing their concert. And they had vultures, buffalo, rattlesnakes, and apparently the buffalo decided to ram into the tank full of rattlesnakes, which then released them live on the stage during the concert. So this is why you do not include wild animals. Whoever you up and coming musicians or magicians or any stage performers, stay away from the animals.
Stay away from buffaloes.
Seriously. Like, let's come up with some animals to put on stage while we have our concert. Like loud blaring music and put their heads next to speakers. Buffalo. Let's get some buffalo.
Yeah, let's do that. Like, that will work. God bless their hearts.
Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you haven't already, do us a favor, please, and click the subscribe button and the bell icon so you get some notifications when we do our shows. We really appreciate it, guys. It helps support the show and grow the channel so more people can find it. If you guys came to us from Wild Chats, because we're on Wild Chats, we're also doing the same concept over on Undiscovered Worlds, which is our other channel, and it's all non-animal stuff. So we're going to be doing like space and astronauts, and we'll be doing ocean and baby humans, and I don't know. And we're going to be taking suggestions. So if you guys want to write in the comments something you would like to learn about and you just don't want to go do the research yourself, or you just really like our take on what we decided to pick when we scour the internet for a given topic, you can do that too. So if you want to do buildings or cars or whatever, type it in the comments, and we give those a glance and kind of decide what we're going to do working in the future. But guys, we appreciate it so much. We're about to jump on over to the after show, the backstage version of this, for all of the Patreon subscribers. And we have the one question as far as the worst snake name you can come up with. And the other question for this show, as always, is going to be, do you have any more fun facts about the animal that we just talked about that we may have missed? So that'll go in the YouTube community posts or the free, of course, free Patreon community section. You guys can talk about all that stuff there. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining.